Welcome to the Circle Sessions featuring the Circle of Experts. Each week, one of the Circle of Experts joins me to talk about critical aspects of growing your podcast. The Circle of Experts are Yasmine Robles and Izzy Dudosky from Rebel Marketing, Tanisha English-Amamu of TJE Communications, and Don the Idea Guy. I'm Brett Johnson, my podcast guy from Circle 270 Media Podcast Consultants. This week, Yasmine and Izzy are here. They work alongside clients to design a website that's driven by strategy, looks amazing, and that you can use to grow your podcast and then in turn your business as well. Yasmine and Izzy, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
The topic we want to talk about today obviously is dear and to my heart. I get to work with some podcasters before they launch. I work with a lot of podcasters after they've launched and they are looking to sustain or keep going. But it's always fun for that launch because there's always a lot of things that you're doing for a launch of a podcast that you'll never do again. Because it's kind of prepping for a wedding, you get married, and you never do those things again, unless you get
Hopefully.
married. Yeah, right. But there is a list of things and that you need to keep in mind that what we're going to talk about today will not make or break a podcast, but if you do them, you increase your chances of awareness that the podcast is recognized as existing, because you can throw a audio and video out there and it may not get noticed unless you tell somebody it's coming up. So, we're going to go over a no fluff guide to a high impact podcast launch. And there is that area of a pre launch buzz. Talk a little bit about that because you guys went through a little bit of it just with your recent, I'm going to call recent because you've been, doing your market like it's hot podcast under a year. So it's still fresh, but
Yeah.
you still have that memory of what you did and how important it can be.
Well, I just want to say you helped a lot, especially with just like the strategy piece of it.
Well, thank you.
But from a marketing agency point of view, you really want to create that buzz even before you launch.
Mhm.
But also kind of like the cobbler has no shoes. The cobbler's kids
Right.
have no shoes, right? For a
Yeah.
marketing agency, we also had to remember that we had to treat ourselves like our own client.
Hmm.
But really, it comes down to teasing that podcast episode. So you probably work if you're working with Brett or with someone else, or on your own. You're probably going to hopefully have at least a trailer and a couple of episodes already recorded. So you have clips and things that you can utilize, and you want to start talking about the podcast, even though it might not even be on Spotify or wherever it's going. So talk about it to everyone before it launches. You could even create a wait list. So, and as you're recording, you can share these sneak peeks. So let's say you create your Instagram page as an example, and you are in the recording studio, or you're just setting up your recording space, even if it's in your kitchen. Share those behind the scenes views and say, hey, I'm my first day recording. People love when somebody's launching something.
Hmm.
So you can say, it's my first day recording, wish me luck, post it, say the topics will range from this to this, and invite people to follow, right? You're introducing that momentum and you're getting them to become fans. They'll feel like they've been with you from the beginning. You can use countdowns. Those are pretty good on like Instagram, LinkedIn, any of the other ones, and build that anticipation and just get people really excited. Kind of like if you were opening up let's say a restaurant, like a food place, a taco place. You might give people some free samples around the corner. You might go to the different businesses that are nearby and drop off coupons for the launch date. Very similar to a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And and behind the scenes, it's forcing your hand to plan,
Yeah,
to really
yes.
think out, which is what people, work with me on is they keep them going, or at least introduce the mindset, okay, to keep going, we have to flesh out ideas. Whether I'm involved with the fleshing out ideas or not, if I've instilled that idea of plan, 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 at least you're increasing the odds that you're going to continue podcasting within a year, if that's your goal, if you want to get, over time. So yeah, it's that pre-launch buzz and such really gets you focused on, okay, I can't just make 3 episodes and I'm done. I have to have 6 months worth because I've
Mhm.
built up this big thing that people are excited about. I want to keep going with it. So your next point, dead on, is launching with a number of episodes, and you two did that with Market Like It's Hot. Talk a
Mhm.
little bit about that concept of what you did. Let's put it as an example.
Yeah, well, I'm a podcast junkie, and I never realized until you pointed it out to me that people will binge when something launches.
Mhm.
And it's true. That's what I do. I hear about a new podcast episode, and I'll probably listen to about 3 episodes, maybe even more, because I'm intrigued, right?
Yeah.
So same thing with marketing. You want to make sure you have that trailer because that you can start promoting it on social media even before the rest of them launch potentially. But you also want to try and launch with some that are already there so that they can binge watch, I guess, if it is a video,
Yeah, sure.
but binge listen to it. Again, think of how if you are watching a lot of Netflix shows, do you go into a season and then sometimes they drop the whole season in, and people will sit there, and by people I mean me,
Yeah.
will sit
Yeah.
there and watch an entire season. Um, so think of that mindset and try to have at least a trailer, and then a couple of episodes. As an example, you could do like a signature solo episode. You could bring in a guest or do a how-to episode because these are also like your tests, right?
Yeah.
And as long as there's an overarching theme or collection to your podcast, you can then use these as clips for other things. And it encourages people to start binging. It gives them options. It'll help you strategize and schedule out all of your social posts because if you know you've already recorded them, you've already scheduled them to go out, you have maybe the video clips or the audio clips, you can have, let's say, 30 days worth of social media content even after it launches. And then, per my knowledge, it helps with the retention and the algorithm visibility. Now, it depends if you're doing blogging. So you might even have that blog launch. So the transcript could become a blog article. You
Mhm.
can embed the audio tool there. You can also embed the video. And that's just another boom for you because now you might be getting some SEO juice. You can direct people to your website. It just becomes this big launch, all
Mhm.
from strategy and
Right.
having recorded things.
Yeah. And to give some insight on those first 3 episodes, including the
Mhm.
trailer, the hardest episode to record will be the trailer.
Yes,
Because
I agree.
that is truly what you are putting together. You're telling the audience, "This is what I'm going to do over the next." It doesn't have to be the life of the podcast. Does not have to be, but at least over the next umpteen months, umpteen episodes. This is what this is going to be about. And really putting that effort in the trailer helps you synopsize and be able to talk about your podcast better with people you run into on the street. Ask, "Oh, you have a podcast?" Yeah, and you can synopsize, "This is what it's about." That trailer really get you focused. That is your North Star. It really, really is, and I think the industry is really focusing more and more on trailers again, which is good because I think it's that intro that people just want a really short synopsis of what is this about? Give it to me, that too long didn't listen kind of feel to it,
Mhm.
but it's that intro to it. But really don't just slop out a trailer. Really put a lot of effort into it, and the rest will be easier as it goes along too.
Mhm.
Next, you know, again back to planning, building a launch list, talking about all the different things that come with that launch list. I'll let you dive into it.
Yeah, so I suggest you start a wait list. Yeah, you
Oh,
might have just a splash page, or if you already have a business, maybe it's a pop-up. Hey, join the wait list for, and if you might already have the trailer, but join the wait list for this podcast that we're launching. It's going to be about X, Y, Z. We're going to bring you stories, inspiration, etc. And then ask your friends. I know typically I'm like, well, your friends or family, they're not really your target audience. Like my mom would probably, even if she reshared my marketing podcast, I don't think she would
right, right,
reshare it
right,
to the right person.
right.
But people, maybe even in your sphere, so previous
Oh,
clients, people in a peer network, anything like that, right? If you're part of a chamber, share it with a chamber, but try to get people on some kind of wait list, because even if you have 20 people that said, you know what, I like Brett, I'm going to get on the wait list and see
Mm-hmm.
what this is all about, they could potentially reshare once it does launch. And you can
Oh,
ask that of them because it is a curated list. You can say, hey, like Brett could have been like, hey, Yasmine, I just launched this new podcast. Do you mind sharing it? It's about X, Y, and Z. And then you could also, if you have a guest or somebody who is really gung ho and really excited to support you, you can give them some kind of graphic to share, or tag them in a graphic that you've posted. Just because, again, they can even just reposting on LinkedIn can really help you out. You can also ask them, just say, hey, can you support me? Just can you listen to this and or review it, put a review in there, or share this with 2 people next week. That can, when you personally ask someone for that kind of support, especially during a launch, they're really excited for you and they're really
mm-hmm.
more apt to support.
Yeah, yeah, and that's true. And you can use those quotes and such, whether you can't put it onto Apple or Spotify, but you can use it on your website, which we just, did an episode about a podcast supporting your, or I should say, a website supporting your podcast. So all that insight helps with exposure about, how other people are excited about it. So we've talked all about, launching now, pre-launch. Now let's look into, hey, we're here. We're ready to go. We're doing this thing. We've got them, we're set to go. We got all these people excited about our podcast. I guess we probably better launch. So let's talk about your insights, what you felt that has worked for you, and as well as, that I've seen as well too of how to do that, how to do this. It's that first week.
Mhm. Yeah, I would say just act like it's a mini campaign, and then post daily about it. Usually, I tell people you don't have to post every single day about something, but for this, for like a week, if you post daily of like day one, hey, it's live. Here's the link. Listen to it. Day two, here's a clip from the episode one. Click here to listen to the whole thing. You can highlight a guest if there's a guest there. Pull quotes, listener shout outs, all of this can be every single day. You can post something a little bit different, maybe even behind the scenes. So let's say it is a guest and you in person did the interview, maybe a behind the scenes photo of that interview, right? Kind of continue to post and then use things like stories, reels, carousels. Even LinkedIn does really well with video right now. Share it with that email list, ask them to reshare that email list, to forward it to someone who might like that. If you're part of any paid organizations, I highly recommend that you submit this to the newsletter, that you ask them to share on social media. Whatever perks they give, make sure you utilize them. You might be paying for them.
Hmm.
So launch week, make sure you have, and all of this stuff you kind of already have. So if you, especially if you work with Brett, you already have everything pre-recorded. You might have had the clips already. You can put together some images, some videos, and all it is really, let's say, emailing that chamber ahead of time and saying, hey, the week of XYZ, can you post this for me? And that hopefully they can support.
Right. So all of this seems quite daunting, but the one of the easier ways to do this, or to take the heaviness of this off, is to create some templates,
Mm-hmm.
some things that you use already, because you probably have thought about, okay, what color scheme, what's the logo look like for the podcast? Well, start incorporating that into some templates through Canva or something like, whatever image software you have. But talk a little bit more about that. And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, so I recommend, and again, this is probably going to be before the launch, where you're going to create a couple of branded graphics. You can create them during the launch, but it's nicer if you create it before. Think about, how am I going to pull quotes from this and how are they going to be displayed? How am I going to pull the audio or utilize it? What's the cover art going to look like if you regularly switch it out, or if you're putting it on like YouTube?
Mm-hmm.
What is that basic thumbnail going to look like? Uh, is there an episode trailer? What does that look like? You can use Canva for this. It's a great tool.
Yeah.
And then just brand it. And this way, for your launch as well as in the future, you start saving so much time. You can just pop in the quote, or for us, because we do post the video on YouTube, we just pop in an image, we change the title on the thumbnail, and then we post that. So think of how, and even like descriptions for YouTube, have a template like, well, I'm gonna have a bullet point here, a description here, these are the tags I might use, and I'm always at the end going to link it to whatever freebie or lead magnet you have.
Yeah. I would suggest to kind of keep this in mind when you put an image together. We are now well into, 20 years of podcasting. You don't have to use a microphone in your image. You don't have to.
Yes.
And I almost would advise not to, quite frankly, unless there's something central about that microphone that you have to have. We all get into equipment. We all think it's this cool thing that we have microphones. Now, if it's a picture or an image taken from a studio, I mean, obviously you can't avoid but have a microphone in front of you. But if it's just an image, drawn image of a microphone, it's people get it. You have a podcast. A microphone has been involved in recording
Yeah.
this. If you can avoid it, do. There are plenty of other imagery things to support, images to support what you're doing with the podcast. So get creative. Go beyond that microphone and really push it. Really push. What is that? What does your podcast stand for beyond it's a podcast that has a microphone? There are ways. You two did an excellent job with Market Like It's Hot. You're computer centric with websites, and you have two computers. You're behind two laptops.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
perfect image on what you're focusing on. It has nothing to do with a podcast. It could have been your it could have been Rebel Marketing logo easily. It could have
Yeah.
been. So I think if you look at it that way, of can you transpose that image that you're creating for promotion? Can you put it into other slots that it's your full marketing brand for the podcast, for a blog or whatever, or newsletter? You might have a winner, and it'll stand the test of time, and it doesn't age it. It doesn't, okay, it's a podcast. Okay, great, it's a podcast. I get that sort of thing. But anyway, just a piece of advice: just be different than the other one. Be
Yes.
different than the other podcast. We talked about this. We talk about it probably almost every episode. Truly, we do. Strong calls to action, and my insight on that is listeners or viewers, it's a video podcast, always want to know what to do next. What do you want me to do? I'm listening to your podcast. What do you want me to do? That's a call to action. Whether it's share with a friend, that's a call to action, or it can be much heavier than that. But talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think of this just like a website. Now, when we're podcasting, I forget, right? And so I understand other people who are just starting that they might record something, and as they're editing, they're like, "Oh, like we forgot the call to action."
Yeah.
But try to remember it, and I agree with Brett. Like, it's tell them what to do next. So if it is something as simple as share with a friend, it could be a lead magnet. As a website person, I would love for you to tell them to go to your website and sign up for something, a freebie. And I like the DM me your takeaway, just because DM me or email me or whatever that call to action might be, because it could be a little bit personal for them, where they can say, you know what, yeah, I'm going to DM them that this was really great, and this is what I got out of it. You can also just ask them for a review. So those are some of the call to actions. And then when you're thinking about calls to action on social media, like if you share this on LinkedIn, try to tag, especially in the beginning, tag people that you know, and tell them ahead of time. Just say, hey, I'm going to tag you in the first couple of episodes, so that just as a reminder that you can reshare it, because the algorithm might show it to them, but it might show it to them 3 weeks later.
Yes.
So
yes.
Tag them. So like if your BFF, I don't know, Jill, tag Jill and say, hey, I'm going to tag you in the comments, but it's just to prompt you to reshare. Tag people anyone who's in the episode. Tag Brett. If Brett helped you with the episode, tag Brett, right?
Sure.
If you have a marketing agency, tag the people in the marketing agency.
Yeah.
Anyone who is invested in this. I guess tag your parent if they are on LinkedIn or on social media. but any way that you can prompt that algorithm to start showing it to more people.
Yeah. Your one point about DM me your takeaway or email me. I think that's really important. And I want to kind of go back to that just a little bit. That opens up the conversation. It opens up the opportunity for the listener to know, oh, they want to hear back from me. It's not just a one-way conversation.
Mhm.
But it falls back on you that when they do DM you or email you, you better respond.
Yep.
Don't just ask for it and not respond. So I think that's really important that if you truly want to have, and we should have interaction with our listeners, ask. You'd
Mhm.
be surprised who will
Yeah.
respond to that.
Yeah, and one thing that you can do with permission is say, well, let's say you mentioned, hey, DM me, or you posted a poll about what topics you want to hear about. You can always mention them, of course, with their permission. So if I said, for Market Like It's Hot, what other marketing questions do you guys have?
Mhm.
And somebody responded with, well, what the heck is SEO? I could say, Jill, who owns HR Connect, I don't know, I'm making this up, wants to know what is SEO. And then we can, that episode, although it's answering Jill's question, now we can tag Jill on social media. We can cut that clip and say that showcases her business, and even if it was only like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And then we're answering her question, but then people who are not Jill, they're like, oh my God, they're actually answering the
Mhm.
audience questions. So I can also submit mine.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, don't take that lightly. Yeah, I think we tend to have, and then podcasting is just that way. It seems to be a one-way conversation, but it takes time to build that trust that you will respond, as well as that you want input. Experiment with it. It may take a while. Don't be discouraged that you may not get anything for 2 or 3 months, but it may be one episode that really clicks it off. That's like, wow, I got a lot of response on this episode. May not be controversial, just a topic that a lot of people resonated with. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter, but have that opening because we need more of that in the podcasting world. That listeners know that they can reach out to a host or a podcast a co-host. Now we've got the first week done. We've put a few in. We're chugging along, but we still need that post-launch momentum. You know, it becomes, as I tell my clients, I try to keep it fun for them because if they're not having fun doing podcasting, then it's just a chore. It's just a job, and that's not what this is supposed to be. This should be a fun part of your marketing of what you do, and have a purpose. And if it's lost it's fun, then you don't want to do it anymore, and you'll go on to the next thing. But I think there are some things that can keep it fun and keep it going, but it changes over time. There's a different feel, and you know this too. That the first 3 or 4 episodes, you kind of go, okay, I know what I talked about. Then you get 20 in, and you kind of go, what was episode 2 number about?
Yes.
Then you get 50 in, you go, what was episode 25 about? That sort of thing. So you have all this content to continue to talk about, but you need to keep that momentum going in a way that works for you. And you brought up some really good points in this section of that post-launch momentum, how to keep things going when you're 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 episodes in.
Yeah, so I would say it depends on your content, if it's
Yeah.
evergreen or not. For us, most of our content, we try to make it evergreen, so high level strategy, things like
Yeah.
that. So repurpose that content.
Yeah.
And if you didn't already start a blog, don't start it from scratch. You have, let's say you are 20 episodes in, you can go back, look at the transcripts, pick out a few or do all of them and
Mhm.
just start from the beginning and start creating those blog posts.
Yeah.
Start putting, if you had the video and you didn't put it on YouTube, that's fine. If
Yeah.
it's evergreen content, you can start putting them on YouTube, right? So repurpose that. And as you're working on this, now you have, even though you might feel like it's repetitive and you don't want to showcase something you did 2 months ago, people on social media do not remember.
Yep.
So
Yep.
then you can repurpose a clip or get a different clip from the same topic, Honestly, depending on the size of your podcast episode, you might be able to get at least 2 clips, if not
Mm-hmm.
more,
Yeah.
that you can then repurpose. So that, again, repurpose the content, don't overthink it. And even though you might think that you've overdone a certain topic, the more episodes you have, the less likely, unless you're like me with crime podcasts, the less likely people are going to go to like episode 20 and say, hey, they already did this 200 episodes in. Or you
Right.
can do an update episode. So if it is
Mhm.
something techy, or even if it is that crime podcast, right? There's been an update, or we're rehashing and giving you
Mhm.
a fresh take on it by someone
Yeah.
else. So you can repurpose that content.
Yeah.
And then the things that people often forget, and I've been there too, where you can put the podcast link in different places, like your email signature, social media bios, the website homepage. If you send out proposals for your business, I believe that towards the end of that proposal, you could technically, depending on the type of business you have, link to the podcast, because it's a trust factor, especially like if you're 15, 20 episodes in, I can see that you're consistent with it and what topics you
Mhm.
cover, and they can get a little bit more personality and that trust factor going. Welcome packets for your business is also great. If you have a contact page, you could always, as soon as somebody hits submit on the contact form, they can be redirected to a thank you page, and that could say, hey, we'll get back to you within 48 business hours.
Mhm.
uh, Feel free to browse our podcast while you're at it. Here's some of the top episodes.
Yeah. There are so, and that's what's so fun about what everybody does with their podcast, because there's so many different things you can do with episodes. And you just touched upon it. Just, it depends on your genre. So if it's a crime series, yes, it's very difficult to go back and spotlight episode 10 because it was so great. That's our cliffhanger one. You have a different strategy, but it's that. But if you're building a portfolio of episodes around a marketing agency like Rebel Marketing, you're showcasing these different podcasts, and you can also um, flip somebody to one going, you know what? And like you just mentioned, if we don't get back with you, here's an episode that addresses specifically what we're going to talk to you about, sort of
Mhm.
thing. At least they're having you're keeping them in mind. They know that, okay, they care about me. They're busy. I get it. But at least I can listen to this and maybe I get some answers or it creates more questions in my mind, by
Yeah.
listening to that episode. There's so many things to do. I know I've worked with one client that has we basically have created a collection of episodes. It's an emotional intelligence, but he's created this collection of episodes that he uses as a go-to for any new inquiries to use the services, that sort of thing. So there's so many different ways of looking at how to create the podcast episodes, and what you've created, taking a look at it as bringing it together to help move sales, or whatever the case might be. That's that, really having that, as we talked about at the very beginning, understanding what are you going to do with the content that you're creating, and really, really think big. Think big at the very beginning, because sometimes that makes a difference on how you launch or what you
Mhm.
do down the road. So that's what keeps me excited about working with clients, whether it's an ongoing basis or brand new. It's just that re-energizing of we're gonna change what we're gonna do with the podcast. I've been in it for 5 years. We're gonna modify it a little bit. I got one client right now that's kind of retooling what they're doing. They've done one thing so far, but it's like, okay, now let's start pillaring out ideas on a month to month basis. And we're going to infuse interviews along with just co-hosts talking to each other. Perfect. It's content that keeps them excited, and it showcases their brain power. Ultimately, that's what
Mhm.
their goal is. So yeah. So we talk about a lot of stuff here, and what I would suggest is you can listener, if you want to talk to Yasmine about what they did with their launch for Market Like It's Hot, do it. I mean, Yasmine, how can they get a hold of you if nothing else to talk about how you did that?
Yeah, you can always bribe us with coffee or tacos,
Mhm.
but you can go to myrebelmarketing.com, find us there, contact us. If you want a marketing, more like a marketing audit or a workbook to see, like if you've already launched or if you do have a website
Mhm.
already or are already marketing, I would say go to myrebelmarketing.com/checklist. that'll get you that workbook and you can fill that out. But yeah, I mean, we did talk about a lot. I know Brett was instrumental to us in launching this and guiding us, and just the support and the explanation of, because as a marketer, I knew how to maybe put this on social media,
Yeah.
but the ins and outs and the strategy behind an actual podcast episode and getting that kicked off was scary. It was very daunting,
Right.
and Brett was able to help a lot with that part.
Well, and I appreciate you saying that, because I think what I try to bring to the table is I see best practices in use, and I'm in this world, but I'm not in website design world. So I'm going to go to you. So, I think we all have our
Mhm.
our bucket of stuff that we really know what we're doing, and we need to utilize those resources. We do.
Mhm.
And if you do want to talk about your podcast, if you're launching or you've already launched and you want to it's just not doing what you want it to do, go to mypodcastguy.com, get a time scheduled with me. I do podcast audits as well as just we'll talk. Bottom line, it's sometimes I can see it in people's faces after I talk to them, going, okay, not all is lost. Because they're almost ready to give up, and it's like, no, 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 you're really actually in good shape. It just have to tweak a few things, and all of a sudden, it's like, boom, you got a V8 engine again. You're ready to roll. And it just you don't know until you talk to people that are in the space, no matter what it is,
Yeah.
whether it's YouTube or marketing or website design. Don't give up until you talk to a few people, and we can be resources to you for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no matter what, you can, I mean, you could even do a relaunch. Like if you're pivoting,
Yeah.
I listened to some podcasts that have relaunched, and they send out an episode saying, "Hey, we're going to pivot this way. Let us know what you think.
Mhm.
Send us a message," and then they do a relaunch, a whole relaunch campaign.
Yeah.
So not all is nothing is lost.
No,
If you don't
it's
have a
not.
lot of users or listeners,
Yeah.
you can always fix it.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, thanks for joining me. This has been a great episode.
Yeah. Thank you so much.